Hey everyone, welcome to CSI Secret Store community call. Today is July 22, 2021. This call falls under the CNC of Code of Conduct and is also being recorded. Please add your names to the attendee list. Um, I think we have a pretty small agenda for today. The first item on the list is something that I added after some discussion with Tommy. So if you look at the milestone today, the current plan is we release a V 0.1.0 this week. And then we were thinking about going to a GA or a stable release in the next month. But when we were seeing all these test flakes and like a couple of other flakes, we thought it might be better that we spend one more release just to harden all the tests and then make sure that we have consistent test results. And then also see what feedback we get on the VO 0.1.0 release, because there are a couple of features that we are enabling by default and also making like Helm changes. So this is basically to see what others think about having one more release cycle after this release, and then based on that, going for a V 1.0. So that'll probably be in September.
I am supportive of an additional release. Just also to give us like practice on the release branches and stuff, since we haven't done that. This will be our first time on that.
I agree too.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. It's nice to have not too many like big features in a big release, so that it's just quite a stable release.
Okay, sounds good. So that means we will go ahead and change the stable milestone date to sometime in September, so that we can spend some time on the next release and make sure we have all the bases covered. The second one is also pretty small. So we are planning to cut the V 0.1.0 release today. So a couple of changes from how we do it before is we're going to start with the release branch today. So this is the first time we're going to try that out. Hopefully it all goes through well. So we're going to have a release branch, and then we have made changes in test infra and pro to run E2E tests on release branches and also be able to build from the release branches. So we're going to try that out and then publish the V 0.1.0 release today.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to call out, like, I think we were scheduled like last week to do it, but it just hasn't happened yet. So just to call that out in case anyone was expecting it.
Just as a reminder for me, is this going to be the release at which we want providers to set using gRPC as the default by?
I think this was the release where we wanted them all. Shoot, I need to look it up. I think the goal here was this release was for all of them to support it. Let me pull this down.
Yeah, I think in the previous release, we wanted all the providers to have it, at least behind a feature flag, where they can return the response, return the files as part of gRPC response. And with 0.1.0, like the directive is to start using it by default. And then at least for Azure provider, that's what we are doing. Like we've enabled the feature flag by default, and that's what we're going to go with for this driver release.
Yeah, I think it's during the 0.1.0 release that we want to get them to turning it on to default.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll be flicking that switch to make it the default in our next release.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, and also like another big change in 0.1.0 is for at least for the Helm chats, we have moved the CRDs from the templates directory to CRDs directory. And then also to manage the upgrade lifecycle of the CRDs, we are going to be providing a pre-upgrade hook. So in addition to publishing driver images, we are also going to be publishing a new image called driver CRDs, which is a distroless image which has kubectl that's going to be used for upgrading CRDs before the Helm chart is upgraded. Okay. So the next one on the list is sync all feature. So I think that is from Dane. We can't hear you, Dane, actually.
How about now?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay. So yeah, that was the same issue I was working on for. So last time I had to change it because I was parsing the parameters field, and those are provider specific. So in the new proposal, I added a field for the CRD for in secret objects to have a sync all, which would just read the secrets from disk and sync all the mounted secrets from the mount and sync them to Kubernetes. And I know one of Rita's concerns was being able to specify the type. And so this would allow the user to specify the type and not have to list out every single secret in the parameters. And then Tommy mentioned how this could work for now with the way things are implemented, but we would have to be considerate of this change if there was going to be a migration to how we do secret syncing. And I saw an open issue, or Tommy sent me an open issue that I linked at the bottom. Anish, I think you mentioned that we might be able to use like the requires republish feature to kind of manage the rotation aspect of things. So overall, like the way I've implemented it, it works for now, but it seems like there would have to be like if there's any changes in the future, we would just have to be considerate of this feature and migrating it over to a new implementation. So I just wanted some opinions on it.
So in addition to having sync all true, can this still override it by saying what the name, the key can be? Like, so I think for opaque secret, it works well, right? Like basically you just parse through the whole directory and then the file name translates as the key name in the secret data, and then the value is just what is there in the file. But in case of kubernetes.io/TLS, like let's say they want a TLS certificate, but there are only like TLS cert and key in the file system. Do we say we will still support that like with sync all?
Yeah, well, like my thinking with the type, the way this is implemented is that the user would have to understand that they could only specify one type. So they should only put secrets of one type in the directory. So if they wanted their TLS secrets, every secret in that directory would have to be TLS type.
Right, but at that point, like the format is not specific, right? Like, I mean, when they're just doing a PEM file, like the PEM file could have the secret as well as the PEM file could have the private key as well as the certificate, right? And today, the user tells us that use the same file for parsing a certificate and then use the same file for parsing a key. Let's say they start using the sync all feature with that exact format that they have today. So at that point, would the driver need to say, okay, there's only one file, I'm going to try and parse the certificate and key from this file, or does it expect separate files if the user says sync all with TLS secret?
I think, oh, go ahead.
My expectation is that if you're using the sync all, then your secret files need to match the Kubernetes keys and values expectations.
Yeah, I
Where
think
I think Kubernetes has the oh wait, where is it?
yeah, so there's TLS cert, TLS key, CA cert, and CA key.
Yeah, and that like I'm thinking it would just be the reverse of the existing like defaults in Kubernetes. Trying to find the link here. But anyway, sorry, Dan, if you want to talk about
Anish, could you re-explain your concern? Actually, I'm not sure I'm entirely understanding.
Yeah, so I can talk specific to the Azure provider today, right? And then like today for the Azure provider, if the user is storing something in like Azure Key Vault, like the TLS certificate and key, the way they get it in the mount is they define a type secret, because that's how Azure Key Vault stores it in the backend. And then when they define the type secret, we basically get the certificate, if it's a chain or a server-side just cert, and then also the private key. And then all of that is written to a single file. Like we don't split it today because we are following the conventions as our API, right? And
Okay, so then each secret, you can have multiple secrets in one file. Am I understanding that correct?
so like it's basically just a certificate and a key, but it's all within one file.
Okay.
Right? And then when they want to actually sync this Kubernetes secret, in the type is TLS, and then for the key, they say TLS.cert, read the same file and parse it, and then TLS.keys, read the same file and parse the private key out of it. And then the driver is smart enough to go parse it and then pick out the snippets that are within the headers, like begin private key or begin certificate, and then it's able to convert a base64 encoded and then put that in a Kubernetes secret. But with sync all, there is still just that one file. Right. And then would the driver need to say, if there's one file, I'm going to parse through that? Or do we need a specific format where we, like, I think what Tommy was saying, right? Like, does it have to be the TLS.cert, TLS.key, everything in individual files so that the driver can just parse the individual components and base64 encode it?
Yeah, so I'm not actually sure. I'd have to look with an Azure secret, because the way I've been testing it is with like multiple files. I didn't know that Azure lets you do it all in one file, so I'm actually not sure right now.
I was going to bring up that I'm not sure that the like current behavior of the driver is actually like maybe what we want. Where like there's, I think this is the only secret type that the driver knows about is the certificate one, right? And it knows that like, okay, sometimes there can be one file that splits into you know, a Kubernetes type. And like, I guess I just don't know that, like, would we do that for all of the other like Kubernetes secret types? Like, or is, you know, because like I think in like Vault, right, you can get the cert and key as separate files. Or so like, I know for that behavior probably helps the GCP one and the Azure one, but I don't know that it's generically useful.
So I think there is a, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to chime in and say, I don't know if I'm understanding this correctly, but yeah, it seems like maybe something that where the logic kind of makes the most sense in the provider to kind of for the provider to be splitting that file up, and then yeah, I don't know. I guess it's as I've said before, the kind of unit of work that I see the driver kind of working best at is with individual files, and so it should just kind of pass along whatever files it's given, like without too much processing if possible. But that's just my take. I might have misunderstood some of the surrounding stuff as well.
This actually kind of makes sense to me as well. Like this seems to be like a driver specific. So probably we can let the driver handle and probably standardize the interface on the driver provider side, and then standardize the interface on the driver side to which it should receive certs in this case.
Yeah. So I mean, in general, like is there like support for this feature? Do we think this would be like helpful for users to be able to just sync them all in one go per secret provider class?
Yeah, I think like the sync call is usually for all the users who are using it today for environment variables, right? Like I think it benefits them the most because they have like a lot of key value pairs and they want to sync all of that as environment variables. And today they're forced to have to do it for each individual type.
Okay.
So I think it would still be a useful feature.
And then there was one other thing I wanted to run it by. If we go back to the requires republish open issue. And then at the bottom, there was a proposal to sig auth.
Yeah, that's the one I linked in the agenda.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna bring that up anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I wanted to see if this would somehow intertwine with that there. So I guess we can move on to that.
Right. Yeah, but I will also take a look at the proposal, and then if there are any comments that I want to add, I'll just add it then.
Awesome. I'd appreciate that.
Any other questions for Dan? Okay. Yeah, so the next, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say thanks for working on it. It's a cool feature.
Yeah. So the last item on the agenda was this proposal that I initially wrote. So this all started with the GitHub issue that we have on the driver, right? Requesting for sync is Kubernetes secret without relying on the volume mount. So basically it's trying to separate these two features. And we wrote this one pager and then I presented this in the SIGAuth community. And the idea is separate out the sync controller from the CSI driver and then maybe have that as a separate sub-project within SIGAuth. So then users can decide if they want to do the mount or if they just want to sync, like, so that it's two different features and then like it gives them the option to just do one or the other rather than having to do everything just to get the last part, which is just environment variables, because now they have to worry about all these things that could fail, which they don't even have to, right? And we had a follow-up with the SIGAuth community yesterday, and then there was good feedback. They are interested in this. So the next steps for this is basically writing a proposal and maybe a design doc on how we plan to approach this single controller that would sync as Kubernetes secret. And like, I think the key part there is handling odd scenarios. So today with CSI driver, we are able to assign the permissions to the pod that needs the secret. And then we are just able to leverage that for the auth with the external secret store. So we need to write an auth story for just the sync as Kubernetes secret controller. And then like the plan is to have that proposal that we can present to SIG-Auth in the next community call. And once we get a go ahead from them, then we would be able to extract the bits from, at least as a starter, we could just have the sub project, which would do the sync. And then I think over time, based on how it gets adopted and like how users feel about it, we can slowly maybe get the feature out of the driver and then have the driver only do the volume mount and nothing more. So when users want to sync as Kubernetes secret, we could just direct them to the new sub project that we have. And the advantage is we will use everything that we are using today with the CSI driver. So we would use gRPC. So basically the driver calls the sync controller provider via gRPC, and then the provider would just return the data as part of the gRPC response, and then the driver would just sync that as Kubernetes secret.
Would we use the same secret provider class, right? Like, I guess this is like just kind of duplicating the portion of the current project, running them in parallel for a while, and then seeing whether or not, yeah, I guess it.
Yeah, we can use the same secret provider class. Like, I think that is one of the advantages. Like, if they have that, they can use it with the controller and it will still work. And then over time, we can evaluate if certain things are required for the controller project. I mean, like for the controller object. But at least to like start off, they can still continue to use the same for both the projects and it will still work.
So I think to Dane's question on the last one, it's something to be aware about, but not like a blocker for his effort. Or does that sound right? Or does that sound like the right question, Dane? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds good, because I mean, this is going to be quite a bit of effort, like before we actually get things running and like have that as a separate sub project and then also see how users use it. So I don't think this should be a blocker for the feature that you're working on.
Is there a goal for like when this would be released? This change?
I mean, so we're still in the initial discussions with SIG-Auth. So like once we have the proposal, it's going to be a couple of reviews before it gets approved. And then we have the implementation. And then after that, also that we're going to have API reviews and code reviews before it actually becomes a SIG-Auth sub project. So it could take a while. Like, I mean, there is no timeline right now.
And so like, is the high level goal here for SIG-Auth to adopt like all the syncing functionality, and that would be kind of its own deployment, just separate from the driver?
Right. So like basically we want to extract out the pieces from here, but we need to support it in the driver because there are users using it, right? So essentially we want to extract out the bits that we use for syncing today, and then it'll be a separate controller. So it'll just be like a standalone deployment rather than having a daemon set running on every single node on your cluster. And then it'll just be able to sync, and yeah, it'll still be under the SIG-Auth sub project. So it'll just be CSI driver and then like a sync controller.
Awesome. Cool.
What kind of compatibility would we be targeting for the providers? Because I guess the secret provider class staying the same would help a lot with that. But yeah, if someone just wanted to use the syncer, I guess there is some kind of pod identity specific stuff in the Vault provider right now. I'm just thinking through, what would it be a big lift to get the providers to support this, or would you be aiming for kind of just like default compatibility.
Yeah, I think that is what we need to basically write up in the proposal. Like we had a similar question yesterday in the SIGA community as well, like because the odd scenario is exactly what we need to focus on. So as we write that, hopefully we'll be able to put all this down and talk about compatibility in that doc.
Makes sense.
Yeah, my initial thoughts is that we should give the, like what the requires republish, right? We'll be giving the providers a token for a pod or like for a service account in Kubernetes. And I think that would be a good interface for at least the providers to be to like work against, to at least be able to presume that like the driver or the syncing controller will give them some, you know, token for a Kubernetes service account. Ideally scoped to like, you know, the pod or, but yeah, well, I think, yeah, that's my preference in terms of compatibility, and then like which token or service account it is, I think is kind of to be determined.
Yeah, the providers adopting that is going to make things a lot easier. That'd be a really nice feature.
Yeah, but if you're interested to learn more, you can join the SIGA call. Like hopefully we'll have a proposal that we'll also share on the Slack channel before we present it in SIGA the next time.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Yeah, quite an exciting idea project.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all we have in the agenda. Is there anything else that you all want to discuss that's not on the agenda? Okay. We all get 28 minutes back.
Yeah. Thanks for running the meeting, Anish.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Roel.
Thank you all for joining. See ya.
Nice seeing you all.